It was a normal morning on the 11th of September 2001. President George Bush was sitting in a classroom at an elementary school in Florida, reading to a group of children some stories. Suddenly, an aide whispered in his ear, and his face went pale. "Sir George Bush, the United States is under attack."
It does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
Thanks very much. Completely collapsed.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
Heard a big bang, and then we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
That day changed the world forever. Thousands lost their lives, and the world watched in horror as the Twin Towers collapsed. Behind the attacks was a man who had been hiding from the world, orchestrating terror from the shadows. Osama bin Laden. He publicly admitted his role. This shocking revelation came just days before the US presidential election and confirmed what the world had feared. In response, the United States intensified its global efforts to capture him, launching a decade-long manhunt involving intelligence operations, special forces missions, and cooperation with allies around the world. Nearly a decade later, on May 2011, President Barack Obama addressed the nation with a historic announcement.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
It was a long-awaited moment for Americans, a feeling of relief and closure after nearly a decade of fear and loss. The man behind the September 11 attacks was finally eliminated, and across the country, people poured into the streets, cheering and celebrating late into the night. Before he became the world's most wanted man, Osama bin Laden was just a boy, born into one of the wealthiest families in Saudi Arabia. He born in 1957 in Riyadh. He grew up surrounded by privilege, influence, and strict religious values. His father, Mohammed bin Laden, was a billionaire construction magnate responsible for building much of Saudi Arabia's modern infrastructure. But despite this wealth, Osama was raised in a deeply conservative environment, where he was taught that Muslims had a duty to defend their faith from foreign influence. As a young man, he studied economics and business administration in Jeddah. There, he became involved in religious circles and was influenced by radical thinkers who believed that Islam was under attack from the West. When the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, Osama felt compelled to join the fight. He left Saudi Arabia, used his wealth to support fighters, and traveled to the mountains and caves of Afghanistan to fight as a mujahid. During this period, he learned guerrilla tactics, built a powerful network of militants, and earned a reputation as a committed organizer. When the Soviet forces withdrew, bin Laden believed that the Mujahideen had defeated a superpower. Victorious and confident, he turned his attention to what he perceived as the next threat: Western influence in the Muslim world. The true turning point came when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. As coalition forces prepared to liberate Kuwait, bin Laden offered to the Saudi leadership to defend the kingdom and Kuwait with his Mujahideen, the same fighters who had battled the Soviets. He argued that Muslim lands should be defended by Muslims, not foreign armies. The Saudi government rejected his proposal and instead accepted the deployment of American troops to the Arabian Peninsula. Senior clerics issued legal opinions justifying the decision under the extraordinary circumstances of war. But bin Laden saw it as a humiliation and a desecration. non-Muslim soldiers stationed in the land of Mecca and Medina was intolerable to him. That rejection marked a decisive break. Bin Laden publicly turned against the Saudi monarchy and increasingly denounced the United States for what he called the occupation of Muslim lands. Tensions with the Saudi state escalated until he was effectively expelled and later stripped of his citizenship. He left Saudi Arabia and relocated to Sudan. In Sudan, bin Laden's life took on a different appearance. Reportedly, investing in agricultural projects, roads, and businesses, he tried to build a base of operations. But the presence of American forces in the region, notably U.S. actions in Somalia, convinced him that opportunities had opened to strike back. He began supporting operations against U.S. interests and stepped up his public attacks on the Saudi and Gulf governments for their cooperation with Washington. Under growing diplomatic pressure from the United States, Sudan expelled him and froze or seized some of his assets. Depleted and stateless, bin Laden left Sudan and returned to Afghanistan. Afghanistan was now very different from the country he had fought in a decade earlier. Instead of a single enemy, rival factions were locked in a brutal civil war. The chaos and weak central control provided bin Laden the security and freedom he needed. He reassembled his network, recruiting fighters and rebuilding infrastructure for what had by then become an explicitly anti-American campaign. Over the 90s, his organization carried out a series of escalating attacks on U.S. targets, bombings against American embassies in East Africa that killed and injured hundreds, and a deadly attack on a U.S. Navy vessel. Each strike sharpened his profile and hardened the resolve of U.S. intelligence agencies. By the end of the decade, what had begun as a man's refusal to accept foreign armies on Arabian soil had become a global campaign of terrorism. The CIA and allied services placed him at the very top of the world's most wanted list as USA's #1 enemy. Osama bin Laden. On the morning of the 11th of September 2001, the United States experienced an unprecedented attack. At 8:46 a.m., a plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, followed 19 minutes later by a second plane striking the South Tower. The Pentagon was hit shortly after, while passengers aboard a fourth flight fought back, preventing further disaster when their plane crashed in Pennsylvania. By late morning, both towers had collapsed, and nearly 3,000 people had died, and the nation was in shock. Emergency responders risked everything to save lives, while the country struggled to comprehend the scale of the devastation. The investigators collected and began analyzing evidence. Al Jazeera broadcast a videotape showing Osama bin Laden claiming responsibility for the attacks, sending a chilling message to the world. From that moment, the United States declared war on Afghanistan, vowing to dismantle terrorist networks and bring the perpetrators to justice. The USA policy would never be the same, marking the beginning of a new era of global military action and counterterrorism.
I want him held. I want justice. And there's an old poster out west, as I recall, that said "Wanted, dead or alive."
Less than a month after the September 11 attacks, the United States launched a full-scale invasion of Afghanistan, declaring war on the Taliban and their allies. American forces had taken control of most of the country, pushing deep into territories long thought unreachable. In the rugged border region known as Tora Bora, U.S. intelligence was certain that Osama bin Laden was hiding among the mountains and caves. Determined to capture him, the U.S. launched a series of intense airstrikes across the area, turning the terrain into a fiery battlefield. The bombardment succeeded in capturing many of bin Laden's close associates, but the man himself had already slipped across the Afghan border into Pakistan, escaping what could have been a decisive moment in the hunt for him. In the aftermath of the Tora Bora operation, rumors spread that bin Laden had been killed in the bombings. Over the following months, he continued to release recorded messages to the world. In each message, he taunted the United States, reaffirming that he was alive and still at large. These communications sent a clear signal. Despite the overwhelming military force arrayed against him, bin Laden remained free. After years of pursuit and investigation, the United States faced a major problem. They had no confirmed information about Osama bin Laden's location, who he was living with, or how he was communicating. All they had were video and audio recordings, and after a long period of intelligence work, they reached a point of almost complete deadlock. The CIA decided to change strategy and focus on the people distributing these recordings. After arresting hundreds of members of the network and interrogating them over several years, all of them pointed to a single name, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. At first glance, this seemed like a minor lead, just an alias. But over time, it grew in importance, as investigations revealed that he was Osama bin Laden's right-hand man. In 2007, intelligence from an undisclosed country identified his real name, Ibrahim Saeed Ahmed, a Pakistani-born man who had been born in Kuwait. By June 2010, after monitoring thousands of phone calls from suspected numbers, the CIA finally pinpointed his location in Pakistan. Surveillance revealed that he was living in a large 3-story house surrounded by high walls, barbed wire, and a secure perimeter, and that no one entered or left the house except him. Observing the laundry lines, they noticed women and children lived there, but they never left the house, making it extremely isolated. Over time, satellite imagery reveals another mysterious man living in the same house, completely cut off from the outside world. Everyone understood who he was, Osama bin Laden. The mission shifted from intelligence to the US military. The Special Operations Team began training for the operation that would later be called Operation Neptune Spear. At dawn in May 2011, 2 Black Hawk helicopters took off from Jalalabad Airport in Afghanistan, heading to bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The mission was extremely risky. The helicopters entered Pakistan without notifying the government, and the house was adjacent to a military academy, meaning any misstep could spark a confrontation. Upon reaching the compound, the team systematically cleared the house, floor by floor. About 40 minutes into the operation, bin Laden was found on an upper floor. He was killed by a gunshot to the head, and his body was quickly identified and then transported to a Navy ship in the Arabian Sea, where it was buried at sea to prevent any trace. Hours later, President Barack Obama officially announced the death of the world's most wanted man, Osama bin Laden.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
Millions of Americans poured into the streets to celebrate, marking a day that felt like a national holiday.
USA!